Hi, this is Dr. Victoria Nole, a research fellow at the Extractive Hub, which is based at the Center for Energy, Petroleum, Mineral and Policy at the University of Dundee in the UK. Here with me is Professor Asebe from Ethiopia, and he will be taking us through the key issues of governance in the extractive sector. But before we start, I'd like Mr. Asebe to briefly introduce himself, and then thereafter he will just get into the discussion of governance in the extractive sector.
I'm Asebe Regassa. I'm an associate professor of development studies at Dila University in Ethiopia. I've been for the last few years working and researching on areas of mining, extractive industries, and the questions of local communities' claim for entitlement. With regard to the question I was asked and to discuss on the governance issues in areas of extractive sector, we begin with the major idea that governance is a kind of very broad area in which comes from or mainly includes the policy, regulations, strategies, and also it goes with the notion of local communities' participation, the right of local communities, and the participation of different actors, including actors in the federal, regional, and local levels. With regard to the context in Ethiopia, particularly in areas of extractive industries, for the last many decades actually, that area have not been well developed because there have not been any significant meaningful policies formulated. There was also no meaningful local community participation. So as a result of that, the contribution of extractive industries to the national economic development has been very insignificant actually. And one of the major reasons that brought, as I said, insignificant contribution to the national economy has been lack of integration between the policy and the practice. I said there was not even a clear policy on how much the local communities can get a share from the extractive industries, how much the different, in Ethiopia we have a regional structure. The federal structure is there, the region is there, and there are lower levels, and what distribution of the income they could get, and so on. But one can also talk about the consequence of such absence of kind of good governance in the extractive industries. The first one is it has led, particularly in some areas, in mining, for example, it has led to conflict between local communities and the government. One of the best cases in this regard has been the largest gold mining company in Ethiopia, the Midrock Lagadambi gold mine, was closed in 2018 as a result of a conflict between local communities and the company and the state. And the result is, or the reason for that conflict is because there has been health impacts, there has been environmental pollution from the company, and this has not been regulated by the Ministry of Mines. It has not been also regulated by the successive different government structure. So the local communities started to protest against the renewal of the license of that company. That was one example. The other one is also the consequence of such a lack of good governance in the extractive industry is the government has not been getting the proper revenue that it is supposed to get because there was no transparency, for example. It is only the amount of production of gold, for example, is only based on the report from the companies rather than being managed and transparently regulated by the relevant government bodies. So lack of transparency, lack of participation, lack of benefit sharing at different levels has been one of the major critical issues in the extractive industries governance. So one would say then what is the solution for this? And based on my research, I recommended that the first one is genuine participation and consultation of local communities is very important. Another one is having a legal and policy framework in which local communities participated, in which different government actors and institutions also participate. That clearly puts forward, for example, the amount of benefits that local communities can get, the amount of the benefits that different government institutions can get, the mandates and the responsibilities of companies. For example, in case they do some environmental pollution, what is expected of such companies? What do they have to do? These all require legal and policy frameworks. So in general, for the country to benefit from the extractive industries, within the broader framework of good governance, there should be participatory decision making. There should also be policy frameworks, and the government should also put right-based policy in a way that citizens have the right to benefit from that, from the extractive industries, in the form of social service provisions, in the like education, health, and so on. And they have also the right to participate in the decision making. I think with this, if the government puts into place policies and regulations, it would benefit in its economic development. That's what I think.
Thank you very much, Professor Asebe. That was really very impressive. And as I mentioned, this was just a brief video, a brief overview of the governance issues in the extractive sector of Ethiopia. But if you want to go into detail, you can always send us questions. I will be displaying his contact details, and you can send us questions through the hub, Extractive Hub. Follow our YouTube channel, podcast, and also visit our website. And we shall be hosting him again very soon with specific discussions on the extractive sector in Ethiopia. Again, thank you very much for accepting our invitation.